Welcome back to the On Adventure podcast. I'm Josh Self, and I'll be your host today. And today's guest is someone I was really looking forward to meeting up with. Joe Gray is a friend of a friend, and I think by the time you get to the end of this conversation, you'll be as encouraged as I was. Joe grew up in Tennessee as a visually impaired kid that went to the Tennessee School for the Blind, and through opportunities that he had through that school and good coaches along the way, he became really a world-class athlete. And you'll have to listen to the conversation to hear the details, but what eventually started out as an activity to fill some time turned into a pursuit of the Paralympics on the world stage. And in 2008, he actually made it. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Joe Gray. All right, Joe Gray, welcome to the On Adventure podcast.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you in here. We're sitting in my office right now. You have known my business partner, Mike Perkins, for a while, and Mike's always looking to help me out with new guests on the podcast. And he came back to the office a couple months ago. He's like, I got the guy that you need to talk to. Told me a little bit about you, and we've worked it out to have you in today. So I really, really appreciate you being here, and looking forward to where the conversation goes.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And usually I ask people, is this your first time on a podcast? And most of the folks I've interviewed are like, yeah, this is the first time I've ever done it. For you, you're a little bit of a seasoned veteran with your own podcast, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the details of how that came about and what you're doing with it now. But I do like to start all of these conversations with, tell us a little bit about who you are, who's Joe Gray, and where you grew up. Let's start from the very early age.
All right. So I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee.
Nash Vegas.
Yes, Nash Vegas. Yes. I've been in North Carolina for about 5 years now. But yeah, originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Grew up in a little area called Antioch.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
Lived in Franklin for a few years.
Oh, well, your neighbors.
Neighbors.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. So grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. Majority of my family's there. So, being here at times I do get homesick, but majority of my family's back home. Grew up tight-knit. Cousins grew up as brothers and sisters, not so much as cousins. I attended the Tennessee School for the Blind, K through 12 school.
Every year?
Every year.
Oh, okay.
I attended my public high school in my sophomore year. So to go back, I am visually impaired. I have an eye condition called albinism, which affects my eyes, my skin, my hair. So I am African American, but my body did not produce a certain amount of pigment. So that also affects me going outside. So for instance, if you and I were outside for 20 minutes, I'm going to get sunburn a lot faster than you would because my body has not produced that layer of protection against the sun. My vision is 20/200. You think of 20/20 as being perfect vision. Mine is 20/200 without correction. With correction, my right eye is 20/90. My left eye is 20/80. That's with contacts or glasses. Right now I have contacts in. So that has presented, I like to say, obstacles throughout my life. One with identity, having an appearance that doesn't appear as those who I'm related to, those in my community, but also visually. I can remember times being a kid and we'd be out somewhere and somebody would say, hey, and I would turn, but I couldn't tell who that was. Maybe they were too far away or whatever. And I can remember as a teenager, people say, man, I saw you out. I said, you didn't say anything. And, I didn't really know how to describe or say. So I said, oh, I didn't see you, or I thought it was somebody else, or I'd always make up some sort
Just kind of play it off.
Yeah. So I had to mask those things a lot as a kid.
It sounds like you had to figure out how to wear a mask of some sort in order to fit into the society around you.
Yeah.
And you used the word identity a second ago. Did you identify with that mask then and kind of lose the sense of who you truly were?
I don't think I knew I was wearing a mask. When I look back at it now, I realize I was living two lives. I lived a life when I attended the School for the Blind. I was around my peers who we all were going through similar situations. Everyone's varied, but at the core, we all were visually impaired, dealing with wearing this. Like, how do we navigate? And some were doing better than others, and some were worse than others. I knew some students who they went home and they just stayed in their house. I knew other students who went home and they were social just as much as I was, or more. But when I wasn't at the School for the Blind, I didn't want people to know I went to the School for the Blind. I didn't want people to know that I was visually impaired. So I would do these, I wouldn't even call them coping mechanisms, but I would try to do things to fit in so people wouldn't know, or to take attention off of it, but not really understanding, I've got my own skills and talents that I bring to the table. Now, I don't shy away from those. When I was younger, I wouldn't talk to people. I can remember being out with my mom and a lady saying, "Oh, how old is your son?" And I said, 6. Well, the way my voice sounds now is how it sounded when I was 6. So I had a deep voice. So you take that on top of already not being 100% sure of my appearance. Well, I stopped talking to people and I wouldn't really say anything. People say, "How old are you?" I'd look down, I'd hold fingers up. I would avoid crowds, strangers, most definitely. My family had friends. I wouldn't really want to talk to them because I didn't know what their response was. But, my older sister always says, once I turned like 14, I started talking and never stopped.
Never stopped.
Never stopped. Now, the larger the crowd, the more energized I am.
Okay.
The more I enjoy being around people. My wife will tell you, in our neighborhood, I'm the one going out and talking to the neighbors and speaking to people that I don't even know.
So you're a natural extrovert?
Oh, by definition, yes.
Which had to have been even more difficult as a kid than with that bubbling up inside of you, to have a disconnection from that part of yourself.
Oh yeah.
What was unique about 14? Why did it change?
I'm not 100% sure. I've been pondering on that these past couple of years, really trying to figure out. One thing I think of is, I think sports really played a big part in shaping my confidence. I competed in sports as a younger child. My dad had me involved in Little League football. My brother was playing Little League football. He was age brackets ahead of me. So that was, I enjoyed that a lot. I was always a rough and rambunctious type of kid. I always loved jumping off of stuff, being very adventurous. I've got an aunt that said she didn't want to watch me as a kid because I'd be running up the walls. And then me being visually impaired, it always freaked everybody out. My grandmother would just lose her mind when I would go over there and play, because she had this tree line behind her house and I'd be up in the trees like George of the Jungle.
Really?
It'd freak her out. Here you got a kid that's visually impaired, can't really gauge depth is part of my visual impairment. So gauging how deep and far down things are. And here I am climbing up in these big oak and hickory trees.
How'd you do that? If you couldn't,
I don't think I ever thought about it.
You just did it.
I just did it. And then my friends who lived over there, we all just did it. I remember we would just play hard. And that group of friends that I had, we would play football in the backyard. And that's one of the times when I realized my eyes weren't the same as everyone else. I remember we were going out to catch passes and everybody was catching it. And I remember we all got excited because now we all could catch the ball over our shoulder without turning around to catch it. And I would lose track of the ball when it went up against the green trees. And I wouldn't see it again until that brown ball was up against the blue sky. Okay. So I'd lose track of it as it went up.
And then on the way back down.
And then on the way back down. So then it was they were okay, well, we can't throw sharp, straight passes at them because I couldn't gauge how fast it was coming. So, they always had to lob, the ball to me or do play action type passes. But the thing with that was I was always faster than everybody else. I could take a little more hits than everybody else. So when my friends would try to tackle me, I could get away. But I didn't really know what that was. So then when my dad put me in Little League football, they put me on the line. And I was like, all right, well, I can hit somebody. I can grab somebody, put them on the ground, all that type of stuff. But I wasn't going out and catching passes. But every now and then they may put me in as running back. But those things, I don't even know if my dad really understood, if he really realized, what he was doing in a good way.
Yeah, it seems like what he's doing is showing you that you could do things.
Yeah, and that's exactly
You didn't have limitations.
And I think the process, I think his thought was, I just got to get him out there.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't strategic in putting me as lineman or running back, but his thought was, I just got to get him out there. All of his cousins, his brother, everybody else, I need him to see that he can do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
So, as I got older, I think those things started to correlate and build up. But I'll never forget, I came in the house and I was just jabberjaws, just talking. And at that time, 14, I was being a freshman in high school, and I was going out for the wrestling team. I had done what we had Pee Wee wrestling at the School for the Blind. And that's where the high school students coach the elementary students.
Okay.
And I did that every year in elementary school and loved it. We also had this thing called Junior Olympics where the Tennessee School for the Blind, Kentucky School for the Blind, Ohio and Indiana schools for the blind would come together and they'd have this, it was like a mock track meet, so to speak. I mean, everyone got a medal. So it wasn't, the thing that I loved about that was on the way back. So they had it at the Kentucky School for the Blind in Louisville. On the way back, we stop at McDonald's and they let the kids, they say you could pick whatever you want on the menu. That was always the thing that made me want to go. But, you know, I started realizing I was beating everybody when I went. Now, granted, we're little kids, but not only am I outrunning my friends at home, I'm outrunning my, you know, my visually impaired peers at this, you know, this track meet. So as I got older and I was able to go out for the high school sports, you know, I did that. I think that really allowed me to tap into, you know, a competitive side, but also understanding, you know, I've got some skills. I can use these and be good at them.
Yeah.
So I went out for track and field and wrestling in high school.
And you said you were at the Tennessee School for the Blind until 10th grade?
I was there. So I was there K through 12, but I got the opportunity to go to my public high school my 10th grade year.
So how did that work timing wise?
So since I lived in Nashville, so the School for the Blind is residential. It gives a residential option. So they service students from all over the state.
Is it in Nashville?
It's in Nashville.
Okay.
So you'll have students from Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga, who will come and they'll live at the school during the week and go home on the weekends. All schools for the blind, they operate like that. Since I was a local student, I went to my Metro Nashville Public High School in the morning. So I caught the bus at the bus stop, rode and went to the high school, and then the School for the Blind would then pick me up and bring me back to school in the afternoons.
Okay.
That didn't last long. Remember at 14, I started talking, became more social. I was hanging out. I was seeing my friends that live in my community now in this school setting. This was a culture shock. You know, I'm going from being in this small, when I was at the School for the Blind, I think we had maybe close to 200 students. Well, then now you take me out of that and insert me into this
2,000
public school. It was the largest high school in the city at the time. It had 3,000 plus students. So the culture shock of seeing all these people, not only people that I knew or met in passing, but now I'm meeting new people. I was really good at rapping. I was really good at putting words together with phrases. So instead of me going to class, I'm in front of the cafeteria rapping. And you think about 8 Mile with Eminem. So it's me and my buddy, and we're rapping against people coming up that want to rap against us. And I'm doing that for, you know, I'm supposed to be
class is going
while class is going and creating crowds around us. And I never forget, we had our parent teacher meeting. And they said, you know, I don't think Joe should go back to Antioch. And it was so funny because I remember everybody in the room was like, well, it's not bullying. We know nobody's bullying. Like, he can take up for himself. I said, yeah, he's not coming to class. And I was like, oh, man. I was like,
caught.
Show's over.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they talked about it. So, yeah, I didn't. So it was that. So it's funny. Here's a student who's visually impaired in this large high school setting. And I'm not getting bullied. I'm soaking in this whole experience.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was for the best.
So that lasted a year or part of a year?
I didn't even make it a whole school year. I made it to the up until Thanksgiving. So almost through the first semester.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then it was back to full, you know, just the School for the Blind.
Then it was back to the School for the Blind, which like I said, that was for the best. I mean, I really excelled in athletics. So
the Junior Olympics that you mentioned where the different schools come together, not really competitive.
It wasn't very competitive. So once you got into high school, really middle school, then you start competing against the other athletic departments at those other schools for the blind.
Okay.
So the Junior Olympics, it maybe had 4 or 5 schools. Once you get into high school and you're on the varsity teams, you're competing against 13 other schools for the blind from around the region. At the time when I was there, it was very, very competitive. I mean, I would run in public school meets to prepare for my meets for the School for the Blind.
Wow.
You competed in 3 levels. So you had an A class, which were students who were totally blind. B class were students who had some sight. They could make out shadows, shapes, all those things. And then a C class, which was me, were students who had, you know, some sight, some functional sight, could use it, you know, vision acuities like myself. It was very competitive, you know, and I know we'll get into it. You know, I went on to compete at a higher level. I could go back into my high school years and pick out 8, 9, 10 athletes, male and female, who could have easily gone on and competed with me, and some who could have even been better than me. They just didn't get the same opportunity that I had.
So tell me a little bit more about that. You know, all of us at different points of life, there's crossroads that we get to, and we go one direction instead of another. And sometimes that's a matter of taking advantage of opportunities that are presented versus not. Why was it different for you? If these other athletes were similarly competitive, why was it different for you to get to another level when they didn't? Just a quick interruption here to say that if you're enjoying these conversations, jump over to my website, www.ridgelinewealthadvisors.com, and that's advisors with an ORS, and there you can sign up for my monthly newsletter, The Money Trail Guide. You'll find more information in line with how you can pursue your great adventure now and all the things that go into planning and funding something like that. With that, let's jump back into the conversation.
You know, I say this a lot, a couple of sayings that I have. One is leveraging relationships, but also it does pay to know people. So my athletic director at the Tennessee School for the Blind, who was also my wrestling coach, was a board member for the United States Association of Blind Athletes, which is the second highest you can go up before you become a part of the U.S. Paralympics. So he was a member of the board. So he knew all these happenings that were going on. So when I graduated, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I mean, you know, I kind of had plans. Oh, I'm going to do this, do that, but nothing that was solid. And he reached out and said, hey, they're hosting the Youth World Championships for visually impaired athletes under the age of 19 in the United States this year. You know, I was like, okay, like, you know, why are you telling me this? And he was like, listen to me. He's like, there's students coming from all over the world. I think there was 20 something countries there who are blind and visually impaired. They're going to be competing in track and field. And I was still like, oh, all right. He was like, I want you to go and compete. He was like, I've already set it up. You know, he's like, these are the things that you need to train. This was in June. The competition was in the end of August. He's like, you know, you can train, you can come back to the school, you can use the facilities and work out. I said, okay. So I didn't know anything about people who are blind and vision impaired competing at a high level after high school. I had no clue. But it just so happened that my athletic director was a part of this organization and he knew me and thought this would be a great fit. But if it wasn't for that, there's no telling what I'd be doing, because initially in high school, I loved wrestling. Wrestling was my sport. Like I said, you know, I did Pee-wee wrestling in elementary school. When I was 16, I had the opportunity to do freestyle wrestling, which is more of an Olympic style wrestling. That athletic director, he was our wrestling coach. He said, you know, I want you to go and try out for this team in the summer. And I thought, all right, you know, I've gone to wrestling camps throughout the city, which I love doing in the summer. So myself and another one of my teammates from the School for the Blind, we were part of this wrestling club, freestyle wrestling club. We went, you know, all over Tennessee going to competitions. Well, I did well enough that I was able to go on to regional championships for USA Wrestling in freestyle wrestling. Then I went on to the national championships and I got third in freestyle wrestling. So for my classification, I was the highest ranked visually impaired wrestler in the nation.
Wow. And
there hadn't been many, and I don't know of many who've gone on to do that now. So, you know, after something like that, I'm thinking, I'm going to college, I'm going to wrestle. You know, I want to go to Missouri, Iowa, Ohio State, these big programs. Schools. Well, I went to a Navy wrestling camp after that. And I had an uncle who had been at the Naval Academy. So I was like, man, I'm going to go to Navy and wrestle. This is prestige, one of the best in the country. And I went to the camp and I performed well. And I talked to one of the coaches and he was like, you know, I don't know how you could get into the Naval Academy being visually impaired. And that was just deflating.
Oh, I bet.
But that also, you know, that was a realistic thing. You got to be realistic and say, well, yeah, at the time, no, I couldn't get into the Naval Academy. Not just off of solely being a really good wrestler. I ended up getting hurt that following wrestling season. And I didn't wrestle as many matches, so I didn't get to go to the state tournament. And for collegiate wrestling, they want you to either be a state placer or a state tournament winner. And that was a credential that I didn't have.
That was your senior year?
That was my senior year in high school.
What injury was it?
I had hurt my back and then I had a concussion as well. So those things just, you know, wrestling. My junior year, I started the season off with 27 wins. So I went 27 matches before I saw my first loss. And being at the School for the Blind, I had this thing was I'm not going to lose at the School for the Blind. So we wrestled my sighted peers. We wrestled the public and private high schools throughout the state. So also wrestling our visually impaired schools during the wrestling season as well. So we had, you know, our wrestling championships for Schools for the Blind. You know, we'd go to there and compete well. And see, the thing about wrestling was I was going against my sighted peers more than I went against my blind and visually impaired peers. And that showed me I'm doing the same thing they're doing and beating them. And that just sent my confidence through the roof.
Yeah, it seems like you've described two different cycles of this where you had an adult champion something for you. First, it was your dad pushing you into football. You stepped through the door and took the agency of that and did the thing. And as you did the thing, you realized, man, I can do this. I can compete with anybody.
Yeah.
And then that leads you to your athletic director who opens a door, believes in you. You step through that door, same thing. And now you're realizing you're competing at a really high level. Now, you just talked all about wrestling, though. And if I remember correctly, your Paralympic experience was in track and field, not wrestling. So talk to me a little bit about what happened after, this senior year of high school and wrestling is not working out.
Yeah. So I graduated and I was just kind of sitting around. Well, not sitting around, but I was just like, man, what am I going to do? And that's when, my athletic director said, there's the Youth World Championships for track and field. So I go. So I'm thinking in my mind, man, I've been smoking these guys at the School for the Blind for years.
So you've been running, even though wrestling was your thing.
I've been running. So I always said that track and field was my conditioning for wrestling.
I got you.
That was always what I said. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, man, I'm going to go to this. Okay, so who cares if they're from South Africa or India, France, whatever. I got Great Britain. I was like, this is nothing. And so we get there. My brother went with me as my quote unquote chaperone. He got a free trip to Colorado. So we go, they have a big meeting with Team USA. So a guy that went to the Kansas School for the Blind was there as well. So I knew him. Then there was a coach who coached at the Missouri School for the Blind. He was there. So I already knew two people and they're like, oh yeah, Joe, he's a great sprinter, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm a great sprinter. Yeah. So we had the Team USA meeting and then we go back to our rooms and they give us all this gear and stuff. I'm like, all right, Team USA, here we go. Mm-hmm. So I had signed up to do the long jump, triple jump, high jump, 100-meter dash. I've never run a 100-meter dash. Well, I take that back. I ran it twice in high school at a public school meet. And I did fairly well in the public school meet. I think, one meet I got third, the other one I came in fourth.
And you're going to do this event in the World Championships?
I'm doing this event in the World Championships.
Oh my gosh.
And then I remember I signed up for 3 jumps: long jump, high jump, triple jump. Mm-hmm. So the way we do it in the Schools for the Blind is different how they do it on a more elite level. So scratched my first jump on the triple jump, scratched all 3 jumps on the triple jump. So I'm out. I'm like, all right, whatever, getting the jitters out. Mm-hmm. Go to the high jump. I don't even make it through the first round. I'm out. Something's not right here. Mm-hmm. Go to the long jump. I make it to the finals, but I'm dead last in the finals. Oh, wow. Said, and maybe it's the shoes. I told my brother I should have brought another pair of shoes. He's like, nah, man, I don't think it's the shoes. So we go to the 100-meter dash, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, man, these guys are kind of big. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, it's 19 and under, and I'm 18. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. So then everybody gets down in the starting blocks. Well, I'm not in the starting blocks. I didn't practice with blocks. Mm. I'm like, that's all right. Man, I can outrun my friends at home and in these other track meets. Man, the gun goes off, and I'm with everybody at first. And then it just seemed like the ground got softer under me and everybody else got lifted up and went faster. And that was the first time I saw real speed. And I was like, wait a minute. They
had a different gear.
But at that point I said, I'm not that good and I gotta get myself together. So after the meet.
But it wasn't, I can't do that. I'm not capable of being that good. It was, I'm not that good yet.
I'm not that good yet. Because that's when I said, all right, there's more to this than what I've seen.
That's interesting.
So we went 2 days, and then they were having the relays the third day, which was the last day of the competition. The coaches said, hey, we want you to run the relay. I was like, man, I've never done a relay. I've never passed the baton before. They said, that's all right. We're going to put you with these other 3 guys. You guys can take, the rest of this day to practice, but we're running a relay tonight. Team USA has to have a relay. We can't host this international competition and not run a relay. So it was a 4x100 relay. I said, all right. So we're training and practicing. Initially, I was going to be the last leg, but I was having a little bit of trouble. Kept taking the baton and running with it. Mm-hmm. So we moved people around. So finally we decided I'm going to be the lead leg. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to pass it to second leg. So it seemed like it all went by so fast. I remember, starting the competition, the guy was in the lane beside me was from India. And I remember him saying, all I remember him saying was slow American.
Oh. And
then I turned, and it was the guy who was on the lane beside me in the 100 who ended up getting gold.
Oh.
And I was like, he's talking to me? And then as he was getting into the blocks, he started laughing. I heard him say, "Oh, say, can you see me?" And I was like, "Oh, he's talking about me." So
that is some next level taunting.
The gun goes off, and I promise, up until that point, I had never sprinted that fast before in my life. By the time I get it to second leg, long story short, we set a world record in the youth 100 4x100 relay.
Oh my gosh!
I got my first gold medal,
and you had never done this race before.
Never run a relay. And my brother tell you, I was on that podium and the national anthem was playing. I was crying like a baby.
Oh, I bet.
I was sobbing, bottom lip quivering. And then I remember I was like, man, where's that guy from India? Where is he? But I never saw him. It was probably good that I didn't see him. Yeah. But that moment, I was like, okay, if I train, if I do what I'm supposed to do, like I can do this. Because then I started hearing about the Paralympics and all these other things. And then that led me to go on and train and really get exposure and to go on and do some fun things.
So it was the failures though in the other events. It sounds like maybe that was one of the first times where you had a pretty big failure, at least on a big stage.
Most definitely.
The way I hear what you just said was that it was more fuel in the tank than it was a crushing defeat.
Yeah.
Is that the way
it most definitely was. Now, by the end of that 100 meters, I was thinking like, I came all the way here and this is how it's going to end. But then I remember they kept, well, we got to put a relay team together. But I didn't think they were going to ask me. I just kept thinking, all right, I'm going to go down, I'm going to cheer my team on. And then when they asked me, I was just like, I didn't even hesitate. I said, yeah, I'll do it. And they said, well, yeah, we know you're going to do it. But you got to go out here, practice and all of that. And when I was struggling with the baton, I was the one that said, hey, what if let me be the lead leg? And then just all I have to do is pass. And I ran the fastest split out of the 4x1 than everyone else on the team. So that...
Starting from a dead standstill.
Yeah.
Wow. I know enough to be dangerous about track and field, but not a lot of details. Is that unusual that the first one would be the fastest leg?
Yeah, that's very unusual. Usually your faster legs are your second leg and your last leg.
Second and last.
That's where you put your fastest people, at your second and your last, because the second leg is the longer leg anyway. I mean, it's the complete straightaway back stretch of the track. And then your last leg, I mean, you've got the turn and the straightaway. So that's where you put your fastest and your more endurance sprinters there.
You hit the accelerator to go from competing at Tennessee School for the Blind, and now you just won a gold medal at a world championship. What did that do for you? What were your thoughts at that point? You're still 19?
Yeah. You know what? Now that I think about it, to be honest, I was very excited, but I was also very confused. It's like, what do I do with this? Man, I'm going back home with this gold medal. What is it? And one of the biggest thing I faced was a lot of people were like, oh, you went to the Special Olympics. Now, no knock on the Special Olympics. Those athletes are phenomenal in their own right.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, this was an international competition, 20 plus countries. What that kind of did was put me back in the mindset of, all right, how do I navigate this? How do I let people know, like, no, this is legit. Like, I really trained, like, I busted my butt to get this, this gold medal that I'm coming home with. But, after I figured that out and worked with it, I ended up training with Tennessee State University. The head men's track and field coach had an athlete who was a Paralympian already. He was a single leg amputee. So I had family who worked at Tennessee State, so they connected me with the track coach. And I went and talked to him, and I said, hey, in high school I did this. I mean, I just got back from Youth World Championships. This is what I've got. And he was like, all right, but what are you going to do? What do you mean, what am I going to do? Because for so long, I had been able to go off of, these are the things that I've done. These are the achievements. And he was like, but what do you want to do with that? And the first day of practice, when he let me come out, couldn't even make it all the way around the track because that workout was harder than any workout I had ever done.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, I'm going to break you all the way down. I'm going to teach you how to sprint. I'm going to teach you how to run, the condition and all of that. So I now go through this whole nother phase of training that was so much more rigorous.
Wow.
And it was mental too, because he would talk to us. He would talk to me about life and things. And, you know, my track coach in high school did that, but I was at a different place. And now I'm at this different phase in my life. And that all helped me to train even harder, even better. It also helped me how to go out and I had to go get sponsors. I had to go pay for these track meets. Team USA only covered if I was going to a meet they wanted me at, but I needed to keep competing and go to meets. So
I had to hustle for it.
I had to hustle. I had to go do speaking engagements. I had to go and do all these things to get money to pay for these things. I go to the running store and ask, hey, if I wear your t-shirt at this meet and take a picture in it, can you cover the cost of me getting new spikes? You know, all of those things. So it was a different phase, and that was really hard. You know, at times I really struggled because I almost kind of tapped back in and not being sure about myself and my identity. And now I'm going to tell this person I'm a visually impaired sprinter. And what I do, if they say no, they don't want to support it, which I faced people who said that. They didn't understand what I was saying. Was that safe? That's dangerous? So
I want to go back to something you said a second ago when you came back and had to kind of fight against people understanding what you had just accomplished. How did you do that? Did you just kind of patiently explain that, or was it a angry lashing out?
To be honest, it was a thing of, well, you can race me if you want to see.
I like that.
And a lot of times people say, oh, okay, come on, let's race. But one thing my coach taught me was like, hey, don't do that. You go out and you're racing someone in this parking lot and you pull your hamstring
It's not worth it.
just to prove a point. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
But after a while, you know, it turned into, okay, this is a moment to educate. I can share something with them to enlighten them. And also kind of make humor of it a little bit. You know, I try to pride myself on being a very calm person in general. So initially I would be mad, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
No.
But I don't know how you wouldn't.
Yeah. But then it turned into, well, no, just hold on one second. Let me explain this to you. Let me tell you how much I train. Let me tell you what my training schedule looks like now, what my competition is doing, the standards and the times that I have to meet to even be looked at for some of these things.
Do you find most people, when you did that, responded well, or did you have anybody that just still didn't get it no matter what you said?
At that time, it was probably 50-50.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I can still remember telling some people, and they're like, no, it doesn't make sense. You're blind. So it's like Special Olympics.
Oh,
and after a while, you know, just I had to let people, all right, okay.
You just let it go?
Yeah. But then when they see me and I've got the same jacket on that Michael Phelps is wearing, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that is fascinating. So you get to Tennessee State, you're realizing that there's a whole different level of this training and competition than what you had been used to. Take me through those years of what you did and what it got you to.
You know, I will say, a lot of times I'll get people say, oh man, you ever thought about getting back into it? There's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way. I mean, you're talking about just the training in general. You know, I'm on the track once a day. I'm in the weight room earlier in that day. I'm trying to get, you know, therapy, either massage, chiropractor, something. But outside of the training, I'm trying to get sponsorships or maintain those sponsorships by doing, like I said, speaking engagements or events, appearances, all of these things.
So it was a 24/7 hustle.
It was 24/7. And in the very beginning, when I wasn't getting endorsements or sponsorships, I had to go work another job. So then on top of that, so for instance, I went and worked at UPS and I was doing the overnight shift. So I'd go to UPS late at night, early into the morning. I'd go home, try to get some rest. I'd go lift, go back home, rest, eat, and then go practice, and then go home, sleep. And the thing about UPS was they couldn't accommodate my visual impairment. And I'll never forget, I had a supervisor, you know, I was explaining to him I'm visually impaired. These are the things. He was like, but aren't you running track? Didn't you just go to Brazil for this world championships? Yeah, but I didn't know how to advocate and explain my visual impairment well enough. And I ended up having to leave UPS and go work somewhere else. But that was a big thing. And I felt like it affected my identity.
Yeah. Because
here I am, I can go run, but why can't I go work? So, you know, once I was able to move past that, I really tapped into my training and I was able to I made every world championships from the time I competed. I am a 3-time U.S. Paralympic national champion in track and field. two 200-meter gold medals and one 100-meter gold medal for Team USA. Pan American Games, I went to those and competed. Was a finalist. I consistently stayed in the top 5 rankings of American sprinters, and I was consistently in the top 10 sprinters in the world through my time competing.
What years were you competing? What age group?
From 2005 to 2011.
And how old were you?
I was 19 in 2005. And up until 2011, my math is bad.
About 25?
About 25, 26, something like that. And I had to stop competing due to injury. I had a high ankle sprain and I pulled my groin. My high ankle sprain was bad. Nowadays, that's just a quick outpatient surgery.
Yeah.
But in 2010, 2011, it wasn't. So I had to do like 8 months of rehab. After I went through the rehab process, I tried to go back and compete. It just wasn't the same.
Pain was there consistently or just didn't function?
I just didn't function the same. So in sprinting, I was never the best out of the blocks, but I always had really good turnover. So, you think about sprinting, you go from your blocks to your drive phase, from your drive phase to your turnover to your maintain. So I was never the best of bursting out of the blocks. But once I got out of the blocks, coming out of my drive phase to my turnover, standing up, I was pretty much walking everyone down who was in front of me for the most part. And I could hold my top end speed longer. So when you look at a 100-meter dash, when you look across and halfway through, everybody's kind of side by side. And then you start to see some people slow down. Really what you're seeing is whoever's holding their speed longer, that's who's finishing the race. So it's not that there's so much picking up speed, it's that they're able to maintain that speed.
How could you do that better than anybody else?
I'm not 100% sure. I enjoyed training. I enjoyed lifting weights. So I know that played a large factor in it, but also I'm not the tallest, 5'9", 5'9.5". So I'm lower to the ground. So as everyone else has got longer ways to stand up, I don't have that far to go.
I gotcha.
In comparison to, someone who's sprinting beside me, 6 feet, 6'2",
Yeah, but you got shorter legs too that, a 6-foot person doesn't have to turn them over quite as quickly. Is that the height difference? Is it kind of 6 one half dozen the other, or is there a distinct advantage to being taller than shorter?
I think at one point there was, but now those things kind of change. You look at Usain Bolt, who's 6'2" taller.
Yeah,
he's just got a fantastic form that allows him to hold that get to his top end speed quicker, but hold that top end speed longer.
Did it used to be that someone that was under 6 feet had a better chance of being a faster sprinter?
Yeah. And I think that's how coaches, they coach to that and you train towards that method. But nowadays, not so much. I remember there was a time where they wanted you to be big and bulky.
Yeah.
Muscle makes you move. And really, that's not the case. I'm larger now than I was when I competed. When I was running track, I was maybe 160 plus pounds soaking wet. And now I'm, almost 190 something pounds.
Yeah.
I carry more muscle than I did then.
I gotcha.
But it's all functional.
What was your fastest time in the 100?
My fastest time in the 100 was 11:3.
That is smoking fast. Jeez.
Yeah, that was my fastest 100 meter. My fastest 200 meter was 23:1. So
man,
yeah.
That is amazing. And you were at the 2008 Paralympic Games in Beijing?
I was, yes. I would have loved to have said I was in London, but I didn't make it. Around that time was when I had
the injury?
Yeah, the injuries, yeah.
Okay.
But it's funny, I was at the trials for the London Games for Team USA. And being at those trials is what sparked me to go into coaching.
Did it really?
Yeah, because one of my teammates at Tennessee State, he was also a Paralympian. He and I ran that 4x100 meter relay at the Youth World Championships.
Yeah.
We became best friends after that.
Is that right?
He was in my wedding and I was in his. So he came to Tennessee State and trained with me, and that was a massive boost of confidence to have this other visually impaired athlete. And he actually was an amazing indoor sprinter. So to have us together was huge, but I started kind of working with him a little bit once I got hurt. And it was more of like coming up to practice and saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing. And that turned into me getting the bug to go into coaching.
Was it hard to hit the stop button at the end of your competing and know that part of your life was over?
Yes, very hard.
Was that another part of your identity at that point?
Yeah, it was hard because people started to identify me as, a sprinter, as an athlete. and not knowing how to really be like, okay, well, I'm not doing that. I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
It was very hard. I mean, I remember I remember going and entering myself in track meets, trying to measure and see where am I in this realm? Where am I? And I just had to stop and say, man, I got to move on. So now, I don't get the itch to say, oh man, I wish I was still competing, because I don't.
You don't miss it at all?
No, I don't miss it at all. I mean, it just, like I said, there's so much. That was a full-time job.
Yeah.
And it'd be impossible for me to do that now and have that's 2 full-time jobs. There were times I would go to a track meet on a weekend. For instance, I'd go to Philadelphia for the Penn Relays, come back to Nashville, and then that Thursday leave and go to California for a track meet. There were times I'd only be home 2-3 days, and then have to fit training into that, whatever speaking engagements I had to do, or whatever, just life in those 3 or 4 days, and then pack up and go compete again. And there were times I'd do a track meet during the week and then go do a track meet on the weekend.
That kind of travel and that kind of lifestyle is expensive. Is that what you were trying to raise money?
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Did you have a job at that time too when you were at your
I had jobs periodically. Probably the best job that I had was I worked at Goodwill. And I was talking to my supervisor, telling him what I was doing. And he was like, man, let's do this. He was like, what if you work part-time? We pay you full-time. And then when we need you, you speak for Goodwill. I said, man, let's do it. So I was in like a magazine that they had. Funny story though, at that time, Goodwill was running a campaign. They were putting people's faces, like different peoples with different stories that work for Goodwill. They were putting them on the side of 18-wheelers. And
you were on the side of a semi?
No. I was like, don't do it. I don't want my, now looking back, I should have done it. But I was like, no. I was like, I'll never hear the end of it. I was like, that's all I need is for one of my cousins or someone to go down the highway and see this Goodwill 18-wheeler go down.
Joe.
With me. Yeah. I said, hey, look at that. No, I didn't want that.
There's been a fair amount of, one way to look at it is serendipity, good things that have happened to you along the way. But those good things aren't enough to make all the stuff happen that you've made happen. And like I was saying before, you've actively stepped through the doors that have been open for you and then took the bull by the horns and literally ran with it.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, though, that if racing and being a sprinter had become part of your identity, any of us that played sports, I never competed at anywhere near a level of what you're talking about. But I love baseball. And when my time playing baseball at the end of college finished, and I knew that was it, that was tough. That was really, really hard. You try to think to the other side of it and go, well, there's opportunities. I get to grow up. I get to do things that I couldn't do as a kid. But not being able to do the thing that you loved, and really, if your identity got wrapped around that at any level, it certainly makes it more difficult. But you said coaching kind of started coming into view at that point. How did you make that transition? Talk to me a little bit about that.
All right, I'll go back to that athletic director that I had at the Tennessee School for the Blind. He called me and said, hey, he was like, I just want to check in, see how things are doing, how you're doing. He was like, I see that you're not on the roster for World Championships this year. He was like, I remember you we talked, you were talking about injuries. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I think I'm gonna have to pretty much retire, hang it up. I was like, I'm just not recovering. It's not the same when I compete. He was like, okay. He was like, so what do you think about coming back to School for the Blind and coaching? I said, once again, like, why would I do that? Yeah. And I remember my mom had always said, you're going to be in a position to speak to people. So my mom's a preacher, my dad's a preacher. I said, I'm not going to be standing in the pulpit preaching. But she always said, you're going to be in front of people, but you're also going to be teaching people. So I remember I heard that in my head when he was talking, and I said, well, he was like, well, you couldn't just coach. He was like, we'd have to put you in the classroom. I said, but I'm not a teacher. He was like, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. So I went up to the school. This was in the summer. I went up to the school. I met with him and the superintendent. The guy who was the superintendent, he was the principal at the school when I was there. So he knew me. We walked through the school. They were talking to me. And they were like, we think this would be great for you. We think you'd be a great mentor, to work with the kids. I said, all right, let's see what happens. So school year starts. I'm working there. I'm working with students who have multiple disabilities during the day. I'm in a room with what they considered at the time life skill students. So students with multiple disabilities, the students I worked with had aggressive behaviors. So they couldn't really express themselves at times. So I work with them during the day, but then in the afternoon, I'm in the athletic department coaching track and field and wrestling. So, man, I started coaching, and it felt really good to do that, to share my, I guess you say my expertise. But also I took bits from all the different coaches that I had and put it together. So I talked to the students about life. If we were traveling, going out of town for a meet, I try to get with each one of those kids and talk to them on that bus as we were traveling, just checking how's it going. Giving my 2 cents about certain things that they had going on, but also telling them, what you do in the classroom determines what you do in practice. So if your grades are falling, you're not going to be out here. Letting them know all those things correlate and go together. So that was a lot of fun. And then when track season ended and I went into wrestling season, it was so cool because guys who I had wrestled against at other schools were now coaching at those schools. So, to hear them go up to the kids and say, oh man, your coach, I wrestled him. He beat me this time. I beat him at this time. Like, they always say wrestling is a true brotherhood. And it really was to talk to those guys. And then I started to get my kids who wrestled in the summer camps. So that was really cool to go to those camps and see coaches who I hadn't seen for years, excited to see me. Like, it was a great boost for my confidence. It was really good to know that I had made some sort of an impact.
Yeah. So that was about 2012?
It was 2012. Yeah.
2012. Were you teaching in the classroom or just
I was a
coaching?
teacher's assistant.
I don't know exactly where this fits in, but you were involved with something called the Sight School.
Yes.
Is that correct? So tell me a little bit about that.
So Sight School is an organization that I started with my really good friend. His name is Lex Gillette. He's the world record holder in the long jump.
Well, that's a cool name anyway.
Yeah.
Lex Gillette.
Razor sharp. Yeah. So
I like that.
Lex is the current world record holder in the long jump.
Oh, wow.
He's, I hope I don't butcher it, 22 feet. No totally blind athlete has jumped that far.
Wow.
So Lex and I were teammates on Team USA. We'd always be in and out of contact throughout the years. Right before the pandemic, we reconnected and we were just talking, man, about life. All of our conversation was just life, man. What you got going on? This is what I'm doing. This is what you're doing. And then we started talking about navigating life as two visually impaired people. Him as a current athlete, me as a former athlete. He's talking about different business deals that he's working on, sponsorships and things. And just having those conversations, I remember he said, we should record these conversations. I said, what? Once again, why? Why would we do that? He said, man, I think people will want to hear this. So we started recording it, put it on YouTube, and we started getting tons of feedback from people that we knew, former teammates.
How did you get the word out?
We started by just sending like one episode out in an email.
Just an email to people that you knew?
Yeah, and the people that we knew, and they, you guys should do something with this. Well, then we just put them on YouTube. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
Just upload them, and people would comment, email us, all these things. Hey, can you talk to this kid who they just lost their sight? Or here's a young adult who's struggling with their visual impairment. Or here's some parents that need some guidance, or teachers who got questions. And so we did like 13 episodes, I think. And I kept saying, I was like, man, I think we kind of created like a platform. We need to do something with it. But what? How do we keep up with this and do? So then, we decided to turn it into a nonprofit. Turned it into a nonprofit. We do speaking engagements, we do events, and our goal is to bridge the gap between the sighted and non-sighted world. So we do some unconventional things that not everybody's a big fan of, but we have one program that we do where we go and we blindfold people, sighted people, and put them through tasks that those who are totally blind, visually impaired would go through, so that you can then gain the exposure to what it's like. Our slogan is teaching people to see. Rely on your vision and not your sight. Everyone has a vision.
Beautiful, man.
Thank you. Everyone has a vision.
Yeah.
You don't need, your eyes, all your eyes are doing is giving some information to your brain. You can gain tons of information without those two eyes, but we live in a sighted world. We rely on that. So we expose you to what it's like to not have that, and to show that, people who are blind and visually impaired, we're natural problem solvers. We wake up every day solving problems that those who aren't don't even think of. So we bring tons of skills to the table. And, I tell students and people who I mentor and work with that, you have all the ability in the world. It's just tapping into it. So
that's amazing.
Understanding
but what you're doing there is paying it back with the things that were championed in you, whether it's your dad or the athletic director or other coaches, to say, there's more in there than you recognize right now. I can see it. You may not be able to. And that call forth is a beautiful challenge to say, let's rise up. And man, I love that you have leveraged your experience to now doing that and creating a ripple effect into the next generation I'm super excited to see what you do with this. Is a nonprofit called the Sight School?
Yeah, the nonprofit is called Sight School.
Sight School. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you an opportunity before we finish to let folks know how they can get in touch with that. And you started that during the pandemic. Yeah. So I jumped ahead a few years.
That's all right.
And one of the things that I did read about you, and I think it maybe fits in that gap in between, is that while you were teaching, you took a group of kids skiing in Aspen.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was like the first time.
So to give you a little backstory on that, my senior year in high school, they gave us the opportunity to go skiing for our senior trip.
Okay.
Now, we had to fundraise for it.
All right.
And I was like, yes, I want to go
You
skiing.
didn't even hesitate.
Oh, I didn't hesitate.
Boy from Middle Tennessee, you never skied?
Never skied, never seen more than 2 inches of snow, but I'd ice skated before. So in my mind, was like, oh, it's going to be the same. Yeah. It wasn't. So we go to Aspen.
Those are legit mountains with legit snow.
Yeah. I mean, I remember flying in Aspen. I'm a daredevil, so a lot of things, I don't really get freaked out. Mm-hmm. But I remember being on the plane and it went through those clouds and opened up, and all I saw were the Rockies, and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, that airport is like right on the base of the mountains.
I was like, this is real. And my classmates, everybody was pumped. There was 6 of us that went, and we were like, let's do it.
Okay.
So we went with an organization called Challenge Aspen, and I love these people to death. I would do anything for them because I'm going to skip ahead, but after I left that senior trip, that's when I went and competed at Youth World Championships.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that night before the first competition, I was freaked out. And I was like, but wait, I was like, man, I've been skiing. I've been to Aspen. Everybody's telling me like, that's, one of the wonders of the world to go skiing.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm nervous. I'm going to go run around this oval track. What am I nervous? Like, I've done this
some
extraordinary thing. Yeah. So when I went back to work at the Tennessee School for the Blind, they'd asked if I'd help out fundraising for the trip. And I, hands down, there's, of course, because that trip did so much for me, I want to give back to that. So now I'm in North Carolina. I work at the Governor Moorhead School for the Blind. Mm-hmm. I'm the community employment specialist. So I go out across the state, talk to employers, get the kids jobs while they're in school, set them up for when they graduate. Something I've tied into the job is fundraising, going out in the community and exposure. And, I brought it to the administration's attention. It's like, hey, there's this opportunity that is amazing. I created a presentation. I showed it to them, sold them on why we should be sending these kids to go skiing in Aspen. Mm-hmm. Well, what I did was I connected with the Tennessee School for the Blind and said, hey, what if we do a joint trip? You guys already got the structure of the trip set up in December. Mm-hmm. Let's just add another group. And they were all for it. I talked to the staff at Challenge Aspen. They loved it. So
the Tennessee School had still been sending kids every year?
They've still been going since when I went my senior year, 2004. They had already been going on the trip since like 1999.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So it was already like well established, all those things. So last year was the second year I sent a group of kids to go. The first year was 2 years before that. And it was amazing. And now I got kids come, I can't wait, be a senior when I can go on that trip. But that was a monumental time in my life to go to Aspen, Colorado to ski. And a side note, remember I told you I was really big into rapping when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I hope none of my students hear this. It's too late now. My senior year, my best friend and I, we were in our room and it overlooked this like courtyard area in Aspen where like 3 hotels converge. And I was like, man, where are all these people going? What are they doing? He was like, man, let's go see. So we left our room. We go down to this convention center that they had and we walked in. I don't know how, we just walked right in. I guess we played the blind card. We walked right into this and there's a stage in the front. All these people are like gathered in there. And that's when Monster Energy was just coming out.
Yeah.
So they're like reps from Monster just handing out these energy drinks. So we took them. He said, man, let's see if we can get to the front. I said, yeah. So we go. Well, then the DJ's on stage setting up. So I was like, I got the DJs. I said, man, hey, who's performing? What's going on? He said, man, Coolio's getting ready to perform. I said, man, I rap. Can I rap for Coolio? He was like, man, whatever. So he went back setting up. And then my friend was like, I'm going to move and act like I'm someone different that knows you. And so he called the DJ over. He's like, hey, that guy over there, he's a rapper from Tennessee. He's like, he needs to, Coolio needs to hear him. He was like, do you know him? He was like, no, but I know his music. He's lying. Like, this is my best friend from high school. The next thing you know, Coolio's hype man comes out.
No way.
And I say something to him. He was like, man, come on. So he brought me backstage. He was like, okay, let me hear something. He's like, if you suck, I'm going to have them put you out of this building. I gave him the best rap of my life. He was like, oh man, come on. So he was like, just stay right here. He's like, I'm going to come and get you. And then so Coolio's going on stage, he's performing, and he had already told Coolio, he's like, I'm gonna bring this guy out from Tennessee. So he brought me out on stage.
Oh my God, I thought you were gonna say you met Coolio. You got on stage with Coolio.
Go on stage, and he was like, I want you to freestyle. Coolio was like, right now. And the DJ put on a beat, and I freestyled. Coolio loved it. He gave me a big hug, and he was like, all right. He's like, you're gonna do Gangsta's Paradise with me.
Are you serious?
So it was me, Coolio, and his hype man, and we did Gangsta's Paradise.
Yeah. That is unbelievable.
I blew that hype man's phone up for 2 months after that. Never heard from him again, but I didn't care.
That is an amazing story.
Wild times.
Yeah. It's another way you hustled. Hustled to make the opportunity happen. And that is so cool. So Breckenridge is another ski resort in Colorado, and they have, I think it's called the Breckenridge Outdoor Center, that they do guided on mountain things. One of our kids has some physical disabilities, and so skiing would not be doable without that. But a couple years ago, we went to Breckenridge, and he got a day on the slopes, which was amazing. You know, to see him, the smile on his face, but the love and care and attention that those people gave him, you would have thought he was, world-class skier.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just was amazing to see him experience that. I'm thinking about you organizing that for these high school seniors as the thing to culminate the high school experience. They get to go do this epic adventure.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, just like it did for you, it gave you some gravitas to go do the next big thing. I would imagine that's doing the same thing for all these kids.
Yeah. I tell them, I say, hey, you use this in a job interview. You use this in small talk. I say, because some of your sighted peers aren't even doing this. I was like, but even without that, think about what you're doing. You're skiing, and you're skiing in a beautiful place. And they'll tell you, like, I may not see it, but I'm taking in the sounds and the smells and everything. And I'm just, to be able to give that back is just, it means a lot. And I know that they're, and think about their parents. Yeah. So, they may never afford that, but to know that their child may have this setback, this disability, but they still have this opportunity. Yeah. My thing is, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And then think about the something that they're doing in that moment. And I have them a part of the fundraising for it.
Do you really?
So they understand. They got
skin in the game.
Yeah, so they understand that this isn't just someone handing them a plane ticket and then they get there and someone handing them skis and no, like they're a part of the fundraising. I show them how to write fundraising letters. We're gonna load this van up and we're gonna go to this business and talk to the owner and all these things. You're gonna video testimony so you can let the underclassmen know what this trip meant and what they've got to look forward to.
Wow. How many kids do you take?
We take a small group, but no more than 4.
No more than 4?
Yeah.
And how much do you have to raise to send 4 of them?
In total, we usually raise at least $8,000.
Yeah, that's a big ask.
Yes.
And so you're not just going to go to one place and get somebody to write a check for all that.
No,
so
that would be amazing, but no. that would be amazing, but no. Yeah. So when I show them, I say, all right, well, you two we're going to focus on these areas. You other two will focus on these. And then we come together as a group. I show them, hey, we're going to make a strategic plan. We start in April. So I'll start next month with the students who are juniors now in preparation for their senior year. So, when they come back from the summer, hey, here's a plan. Now I'll do some legwork and start the conversation with some businesses, but I'll let them do a good majority on their own, with guidance, but yeah.
And do you go like in January?
We go in December.
In December.
Yeah, it's either the first or the second weekend in December, and they're there for 6 days.
Oh my gosh.
They're there from a Friday to a Thursday.
That's enough time that you really get the feel of it.
Yeah, so the first 3 days of the trip is all skiing. The rest of those days, they go ice skating. They go to the Glenwood Hot Springs. They get to go around downtown Aspen and do some things. And it's a packed full trip. The kids will come back and they've never been that tired before. They've never used those type of muscles before. So, I love it because it's more, they get to ski, but they also get to do all these really cool, amazing things.
What do you think of the Glenwood Hot Springs?
Man, I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's kind of built into the mountain.
That's really cool. Those views are something else.
Yeah.
But I think someone said, is that the largest hot springs?
It might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been known for a long time. I don't know if you know the name Doc Holliday. From Old West. He died in Glenwood Springs because
I didn't know he died there.
He had tuberculosis really bad, which is part of his character in all the movies that are out on it. But there was something thought to be healing in it. So he eventually moved there, and there's all kinds of different legends.
Yeah.
But he did actually die in an institution there at the time. And supposedly he is buried somewhere in Glenwood Springs. The problem is no one knows where it is.
Yeah.
Because he was buried at one point, the legend goes, in a temporary grave, because where they wanted to bury him was up a hill and it was too muddy to get horse-drawn carriage up there. So they put him in and then forgot to move him. He's probably under someone's house right now. And there's no way to ever know. But he is somewhere there in Glenwood Springs. But that, I don't know what they call it, but that whole canyon area from Glenwood Springs down to Aspen, with the mountain ranges kind of encompassing the road all the way down, it is absolutely out of this world.
And then you go down by the Colorado River?
Yeah.
Oh man, just to watch that thing get close to you and then go way out. Oh yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot, but one of the things that you had said to me earlier, that you work really hard to explore the intersections of personal adversity, professional achievements, and championing the idea of inclusivity. I think you've been very clearly articulate on how you have done that, but maybe speak a little bit more about your heart behind that and what you're doing now to make those things come to pass.
Yeah. So one way I'm getting that done is with my organization, with Psych School. That's allowing us to have a platform, a foundation, should I say, really, a foundation to build off of, to move forward so that we can, work with businesses, go in and consult, tell them, hey, this is how you can make this space more accessible for someone who's visually impaired, but also someone who has a disability. Yeah. And I think, once we're able to integrate some of those things, it just makes for an overall better experience in general.
Absolutely.
One thing that I'm enjoying that I've really started to pick up is motivational speaking, going and doing speaking events, telling my story. To be honest, I might love to write a book someday. Oh, yeah. Maybe a couple volumes. I'd buy it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. That's something I'm really enjoying. I love to do more of. We were talking before we record this, man, I love a crowd. The more the merrier. So if someone's got an event, they need a keynote speaker, I'm the one. If you got 1,000 people, I love it. If you got 10 people, I love to be there.
See, you and I are different in that way, because that's why I like sitting behind these mics. Yeah. I only got to look at one person. I don't like the big crowds. Yeah. That's not something I'm drawn to, but clearly you are. And I think there's, so many different ways you can leverage that. It's a characteristic in who you are, and I think it's a skill too. You have a way about speaking about these things in a very compelling approach that getting in front of a big crowd is great. And you mentioned some of the companies that you already have some feelers with Site School and some of the things you're working on. These are big brands. These could be really big platforms for you to launch the nonprofit into. Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, the goal for us was to take things slow in the beginning, just kind of get our feelers. We met with a lot of other nonprofit co-founders, a lot of nonprofit CEOs, but also just business people in general to get a good feel on, what our niche would be. And we're going to launch a campaign in the next couple of weeks leading up into the Paris Paralympics. But after that, we really want to take this thing by the reins and really do another initiative that we have is working with like sports teams, going in and blindfolding them and having them do different tasks, different drills, and talk about how tapping into your other senses will also allow you to be a better athlete. Yeah. So with my coaching experiences, I was also a personal trainer for a little bit as well. So I understand like the kinesiology of how the body works, but then also being a wrestler, I know leverage and how all those things work together. Yeah. So that was something we decided would be really good to go around and work with. I'm talking about high school, collegiate, professional teams, all of those, and do different drills. We've created programs that would make it adaptable for different sports. So if it was baseball, we'd come in and do some T-ball things, blindfolded, beat baseball. Yeah. Very unorthodox. I don't want to give it all away, but we've got some very unorthodox things that we believe would truly tap into tugging on some heartstrings, but also just exposure of what else is out there.
I think that'll resonate too with, especially in the higher tier competitiveness, that if you're taking the approach that I'm going to open up your senses to make you more aware of what you're capable of doing, you're going to get audiences. And that seems like something that'll build on itself pretty quickly.
We also like to do that in the corporate world as well. As professional developments, do some things. So we kind of finalized our program on what that looked like if we went into a business for a morning or an afternoon or all day, what that program would look like. We figure if we can touch as many different industries and people, that will truly help us to, to expand and get our mission across.
And does your co-founder live in Raleigh as well?
So he is actually, he's a native of North Carolina, but he now lives in San Diego. He trains full-time at the Olympic Training Center in San Diego.
Yeah, you said earlier he's actually training to compete in Paris.
Yeah, he's training to compete in Paris. Sometimes I kind of push him so that I kind of pressure him to keep competing till LA 2028.
Oh, wow.
That'd be a great platform for us to be on. But if not, we'd still be there. But, I mess with him every now and then. Say, hey, man, just, train for Paris, but I need you to stick it out 4 more years after that. But, that's a lot of work. I mean,
it is a lot of work.
He does that full time on top of what we have going on and then his own endeavors as well.
Are you going to go to Paris to see him compete?
So I was going to go to Paris, but I have a baby on the way.
Oh.
And my child will be here in June. So
congratulations. And that's a lot more important than going to the Paris Olympics.
That's a lot more important than the games in Paris. So
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I'm very excited about that.
Do you know if it's a boy or girl?
I don't. We're going to wait.
Oh, you're going to be surprised?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You are an adventurer. Yeah.
I would have to say my wife's leading the charge on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I do like to kind of put a bow on the conversations, and with this being a podcast about adventure, and as I've said before, all these conversations are with people that I'm calling the everyday explorer. Okay. All of us are doing things that push our own limits to see what we're made out of, whether we're 15 or 85 and all the years in between. I think you've done an excellent job of describing where you push past limits that were either preset for you or that maybe you assumed were there. And maybe the way to ask this question is, what does adventure mean to you? And through all of these different challenges, what have you learned about yourself?
I would say I think adventure for me means facing a fear, conquering the fear, and moving on to the next unknown. I think that's what adventure would mean to me. We talked earlier about me climbing trees and not having good depth perception. I didn't realize I was scared until I got up there and looked down like, holy cow, what am I doing? But I knew, hey, I got to get down somehow. And I got down. And then once I got down, it's like, all right, what's the next thing? So I think that's adventure for me. I really love the thrills of seeking those type of things.
Yeah.
And you may fail. You may fall really hard, but just because you fall doesn't mean you can't get back up.
Yeah, you don't seem scared at all failing or not attaining something.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I mean, I figure 2 things can happen. You either achieve or you fail. And if you fail, you can go again. And if you achieve it, you got to move on to something else.
So obviously parenthood is a huge challenge, a huge adventure that you're getting started. What else do you have on your forward-looking list of adventures that you're seeking out?
Parenthood, most definitely. Yes, that's a big thing. I already have a 2.5-year-old, so running around with him is an adventure in itself.
So I didn't realize you already had one.
Yeah, so then adding to that's going to be even more of an adventure.
Going from 1 to 2 is a big jump.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we're figuring out what that's going to look like now. But you can only be as prepared. There's so many unknowns.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
The other, really honing in on my speaking engagements, also honing in on my organization. Getting this thing really moving, and also rooting on my co-founder. He's going to Paris. He's got multiple Paralympic games under his belt. So really watching him, the one thing that has eluded him is a Paralympic gold.
Oh boy.
Here he is, the world record holder. He's won many world championships, but he hadn't gotten gold at the Paralympics. So that's a big thing that we've got going, and making sure that there's not too many distractions in the way for him.
Yeah.
So those are probably the biggest things that I've got, in my line of sight right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Lex Gillette, we're going to have a new fan club for him, pulling him on to gold this summer.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get him on here when he gets back from
Paris. That'd be cool, especially with his gold medal. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Well, Joe, I am extremely grateful for you taking the time to come chat with me today. I think you've done such an incredible job of articulating what all of this has meant to you,
The thing I love about these is it's not about capturing just the story, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about the thing that you accomplished, but it's all that you've learned along the way. And I think anybody listening is going to be inspired to tackle their next adventure for themselves.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad to do it. All right. Thanks for listening. And I sincerely mean that because I'm extremely grateful that you choose to spend this time with me. I don't take it for granted, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more content like this, be sure to check out material on my website at ridgelinewealthadvisors.com. That's advisors with an ORS. And sign up for my monthly newsletter, The Money Trail Guide, which you can find on the blog page. Until next time, I hope you pursue your own great adventure.